Located on West Union Street in Burlington, New Jersey, the Library Company of Burlington is refuge to many wandering souls. Chartered in 1758 by King George II and operating out of its current location for 150 years, the library is rich in history.
Oh, the history is just unbelievable. It is such a romantic history. It started back in 1757 in November. We were actually the capital of West Jersey during this time. So the men felt like we needed to have a community library. So back in 1757 of November, 60 men got together to form the Library Company of Burlington. They petitioned the king to grant them the license to operate a library, and the charter came from King George II on January 1st, 1758. So we have been a working library for 256 years. So it's a lot of history.
Sharon Vince has been working at the Library Company for 20 years and has many daily encounters with the spirits that reside within.
My first experience was probably working in the office. There's an old desk in there. I sit at one metal desk. It looks like it's off of the battleship. And then I turned and I started working on the old wooden back desk. And as soon as I turned around and started working, all of a sudden the hair on my neck and everything, just like went up. And I'm like, okay, I know you're in here. And all of a sudden then they bumped my arm of my chair twice. And I said, okay, I understand. It's your turn to work in the office. One of the biggest, I think, problems that we had here with our spirits was during Christmas about 4 years ago. We had put a Victorian wedding gown display upstairs in the Mason's room. Well, here you are, you're putting women's clothes and frou-frou stuff in a man's world. And things up there were happening all the time. And it got to where it was just aggravating because you knew it was going to happen, but you didn't know how to stop it and keep it from happening. I had neighbors coming over across the street saying, the lights came on upstairs at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, okay, that's my cleaning lady, and she cleans weird hours, so I'll talk to her. And she would come over the next day. Well, the lights came on again at 3 o'clock this time. And things like that kept happening, and this was happening at least 3 to 4 times a week. And the staff was getting anxious and getting tired of it. And finally, I called the electrician just to make sure. I said, I need you to come here and look. He came over, and they checked everything. He goes, Sharon, nothing is wrong. Everything is absolutely fine. And I said, okay, thank you. So then that's when finally made it through. It started in November, went through December, January, February. I mean, we were going through this for like 4 months. And finally, the end of February, beginning of March, I started taking the exhibit down and got all the dresses and got everything out of there. And then it stopped. Completely stopped.
One worker in particular experiences encounters with spirits on a much more intense level. Marty Haynes, manager of the Ghost Hunter store in Burlington and part-time worker of the library, talks to spirits every day.
I started seeing ghosts when I was just a little kid, as far back as I can remember. My first experience was telling my mother that my great-grandmother had passed away. I actually had a dream that I visited her on a bridge, and she told me that she was okay and she was fine, let everybody else know. And she started walking back on the bridge, and I started to try and follow her, and she told me I wasn't allowed, I had to go back. So when I woke up, I told her that my great-grandmother had passed. but that she was okay. And my mother argued with me for about 10 minutes before they finally sent somebody over to check on her and found out that she was deceased. That was probably at the age of 4. From that point, we had moved into the house we lived in and I grew up in for about 20 years. And I would lay in bed and my bed would move to the point where my parents would holler for me to get back in bed and I wasn't out of bed. They'd hear the bed actually drop on the floor. We had an A-frame house, so they had the drop ceilings in the middle, and I would watch people's faces be pushed through them, hands be pushed through them. I'd listen to scratching and stuff on the walls. And my parents told me first that it was just my imagination, that I was dreaming. And then they started sending me to different psychiatrists and medicating me, until I told the one psychiatrist that his grandmother was upset with him for not showing up at the funeral. He took the medication away, told me to go home and never bring me back.
To show us what it is like for her on a daily basis, Marty has agreed to take us to the basement to talk to the spirits that reside there.
A little bit about Charlie. He was a caretaker here. We met him, first time I met him was about 8 years ago, doing a lecture here. And one of the investigators said I needed to come back and walk in this area and see what I picked up on. So I came back, and Charlie's very territorial, okay? So when we walked in, it was a little oppressive, kind of like feeling like you're being pushed out, a little sick to my stomach. So we stepped back and we talked to him for a little bit, and we all left. Since then, I've been teaching classes here, and I work here part-time. And just getting to know him and spending time with him, doing investigations down here, talking to him, I realized that he's a really nice guy. He really cares about the library, and he's really just worried about people coming in and taking advantage of the library. So basically, when I come in and talk to him, when I come in and do classes, I actually come down here, say hello to him first, tell him what's going on, what we'll be doing, you know. When we do investigations, I'll tell him we're going to bring people in to investigate, and if he wishes to help us out, that would be great. If not, we're okay with that too. And most of the time he does give us a hand, and he will lit up the equipment and give us EVPs and stuff like that, but he does get to a point where he's had enough, and once he says that's enough, I respect that and walk out. We've had people that didn't respect him and didn't walk out of the room. We've had people go out of here very sick, very nauseous. One gentleman, I thought he was having a heart attack from the energy back here. But for, I guess for the last 6 years teaching classes and being in the library, Charlie and I get along pretty well. All right, and one more time.
The device that Marty uses to show us the spirit interaction picks up on the static energy in the room.
Can you do it just one more time for me?
It has been found that spirits can manipulate the static field to answer yes or no questions, or light the device up to let us know they are there.
You getting tired already? That was little Emily. She's 7 or 8. She likes to play with this toy, especially. When I bring the kids down here, she usually sits and picks people to take turns. She'll call their names out.
The real question is, why are the spirits staying here at the library? Who are they? What are their stories?
Most spirits are here not because they're left behind or they stay behind. Actually, most spirits cross. And I want to say probably 98% of the spirits that I've talked to over the last 15 years have crossed and come back to give their loved ones messages. Truly, they're worried about us, the living, and how we're reacting and how we're dealing with their death. They're very comfortable, no pain. They let it all go. They let all their forgivenesses go. They let all their wrongs go. So they've learned to kind of be very pleasant and happy in the afterlife. It's us that they worry about. So they come back to tell us and give us messages on how to get us a little bit happier and let us know that they're still around, so that the mourning process is a whole lot easier for us.
Many people do not believe the stories that Marty tells them of the spirits of the library.
Thank you. I don't really push it. I simply say that there'll be a time when you realize that it's real, and you'll believe. But I don't push my belief system on anybody. I don't expect anybody to push theirs on mine. I simply say to them, you know, when I say, do you work with your angels? Do you work with the universal energies? And they tell me I don't believe in that stuff. Well, I simply tell them that they believe in you.